Welcome back to episode 125 of the Block Runner Podcast. I'm your host, William, always here with your co-host, I-Man.
What's going on?
What's up, dude?
Yeah, not a lot, dude. Just, I don't know.
We're contemplating lots of SEC ventures. This is going to turn into the adventures of the SEC. That's what it's going to turn into.
Something like that. It's just like the adventures of the. This is like feels like the prelude moments of like a if you're writing like a Lord of the Rings trilogy for like crypto.
Yeah.
Web3. What's a prelude, by the way? It just feels like a tale before the tale.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's what it feels like. Like a little micro. Like things are just kind of getting real serious. A lot more serious than what I remember them used to being like back in the old days of like 2017, 2018.
Yeah, they went after EOS. They slapped them with like a $20 million lawsuit.
Remember the BitConnect guys? They got the influencers. What?
That was legit.
Yeah, but nonetheless, like it still didn't feel like that serious, even though it was a serious thing. It's just
Telegram was another one.
Yeah, it felt like at the scale of like just now like Twitch banned gambling off of their platform.
Oh, really?
Just for whatever reason, I guess it was like corrupting the
youth
habits of people, like children. Yeah, getting them addicted to gambling. At that scale of like, it's a serious thing, right? Yeah. But it's not as serious as like we might be entering a new era of like financial and like regulatory order.
Yeah.
For this whole like Web3 space, right? Like that's pretty fucking serious. And something people have been waiting for a long time, right?
Yeah, and so recently the SEC has sued XRP or Ripple.
Yeah.
They sued them in 2020, but now it's like starting to come to a head.
Exactly.
And then the SEC is basically laying claim to all of Ethereum.
Mm-hmm.
Right? No big deal.
No big deal. But not like a big claim. Like it hasn't been like this.
No, it was just like one line in like the lawsuit for Ian Molina.
Yeah, so we made a video about that yesterday. And it's what everybody's talking about at the moment because, I think that is the main narrative right now is... Yeah, what's going on, right? The SEC just seems to be everywhere these days.
Well, not only that, they added like 10,000 people to the SEC.
Did they?
Yeah.
When?
Yeah, well, hold on. Let me search for
Jamie, look that up, dude.
Yeah.
10,000? I mean, that sounds like nothing in comparison to like what the IRS just did. Didn't they add like...
Oh, no. Maybe I'm thinking the IRS.
Oh, okay.
Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah, it was definitely the IRS. They expanded like bigly for, what's it called? The Inflation Reduction Act? Something like that.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
It wasn't the SEC. It was the IRS.
Well, at some point, the SEC
enough.
will probably have to also double its staff if...
They need to. They need to like 10x it because so much crypto.
What do you mean? What are you implying, dude? That crypto needs regulation and oversight?
Well, you're the one telling me that crypto regulation is good.
Well, we haven't come to that conclusion yet. First, we need to analyze like what's even being argued, by the SEC. And like what is the defense? I think right now Ripple is just kind of like the poster child, right?
Yeah. I
don't know all the exact details, like how and why, other than probably like the Ripple was one of the more notable like explosions of the 2018 boom cycle. Remember Ripple was like, it went from like pennies to like, I don't know, like number 2 or 3 in the whole market.
Yeah.
It was insane.
Yeah.
Right. And I think the SEC obviously noticed like this cryptocurrency stuff has the potential to create these like damaging boom and bust cycles.
Well, so it goes back to 1929, right? The stock market crash, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying. So like if that's what governing bodies did in response to these type of events, right? When there's like mass speculation.
Yeah.
It's like it could snowball out of control and like have real damaging effects. So it's like, what do we do in response to that? So there has to be legal precedent set, right? So go after somebody, right? Even though every project, every token, go back to 2018, dude. Every single one was just like an insane spike. Mm-hmm. And then like a flattening out curve.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But Ripple probably was like the biggest one to go after. I think that's why they're in the situation they're in, in my opinion.
Yeah. So Ripple, and then here I have the Ethereum falls under the jurisdiction of the U.S. Mm-hmm. So I guess which one do you want to talk about first? Which one has you the most hot and bothered?
Well, first, I don't understand why this doesn't affect you at all. Like, do you don't see like how this is an important like moment in time?
As far as the Ripple case goes, I'm not as I don't know. I'm not as like intrigued as I am the SEC claiming that Ethereum falls under their jurisdiction.
Okay, but you don't think like what is your expectation from like a case like Ripple? Just you're expecting like a slap on the wrist at the worst?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think because like of the actual narrative of the attack from the SEC or the allegations,
yeah,
it's something that can be, I guess, made of from like a mass majority of the projects, you know, in the Web3 ecosystem.
Yeah,
you know, they're not necessarily claiming that like, oh, you guys did like an unregistered securities offering because Ripple never did.
Right.
There was no ICO for Ripple.
Right.
Right. What they're claiming is like the behaviors, the way you guys are, I guess, communicating to your investors.
Yeah.
Your token buyers. These things violate what we call our securities. You know, they make you look like a security, right? So if that's the case, then that can be applied to, I think, in a lot of different projects, right? So they could set a precedent for them to start just going after everybody.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, XRP never did an ICO like the rest of them that you were talking about.
Well, that's why, yeah, most of those slap on the wrists are for, you know, ICOs or some sort of like token sale of an event.
And XRP didn't do that.
No.
And so maybe they never did like a public sale, right? They just made it an XRP available, and that was it. That's all that they did.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they have claim to not being a security because they didn't actually like sell anything to anybody.
They could claim that, but still, it's just okay. Do you want to break down at all like what it is the SEC is like?
Okay, yeah, let's read this.
Alleging like as far as what did Ripple do?
Right.
You know,
SEC, Ripple call for immediate ruling in suit over whether XRP sales violated securities laws, right?
Okay, yeah, which sales? Like from an exchange?
So SEC and Ripple Labs both filed motions for summary judgment arguing that a judge overseeing the case has enough information to make the ruling. So this article talks about how both of them want a pretty quick resolution to the lawsuit.
Yeah.
And because the lawsuit began in 2020, I think December 2020, something like that. And that's when XRP tanked, right? Because of the SEC investigations.
I do remember that. Yeah. Everyone got pretty spooked.
Yeah.
You know?
So I'm trying to find the line that states the claim from the SEC. Each federal rule affiliated with the XRP cryptocurrency violate federal securities laws and otherwise dismiss the lawsuit without requiring a lengthy trial. But
right
most
there at the bottom, the SEC sued Ripple Labs.
Yeah, but this is a statement from the CEO.
No, on allegations that had raised over $1.3 billion by selling XRP in unregistered securities transactions. So that's the allegation.
Ripple maintained that XRP sales and trading did not meet the tenets of the Howey test.
Mm-hmm.
And the U.S. Supreme Court case that has acted as a way to determine whether something is a security for the last several decades. So basically, SEC is saying the sale of 1.3 billion XRP passes the Howey test, meaning it is a security, and Ripple is saying it fails the Howey test.
Okay. So this is like pretty fundamental.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Security or not. You know, Ripple is like as basic as a cryptocurrency gets, right? So I think this is a very fundamental thing for the industry to figure out, right? Whether or not things need to be regulated, the whole crypto industry or not, like what is justified or qualified as a security.
Yeah.
Right now, the Web3 ecosystem is operated under the assumption that, like, you know, none of this stuff is because we're building distributed ecosystems, whatever, decentralized networks, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah,
We've heard from previous, like, SEC administrations that they're in agreement with that. Like, this is not something we should touch. But now the narrative is shifting, like the sentiment, right?
Yeah, at a certain point, the SEC claimed, I guess the previous administration claimed that Ethereum was fully decentralized and therefore doesn't constitute as a security.
Mm-hmm.
And so now they're changing their mind, right, as far as Ethereum goes.
Yeah.
And so now, like you're saying, now they're starting to think through what constitutes as a security using the Howey test. And I don't know. It seems like the SEC has some clear grounds here. But it depends. I mean, I don't know in what format did they raise $1.3 billion. Like how do they do a sale for $1.3 billion and not have like the public participate? Was this only like through banks? I mean, how did this happen?
Yeah. Well, who knows? But I think the real discussion here, though, is the nature of, again, like what is the SEC's role and response to the whole thing, right?
The SEC first was born out of the stock market crash of 1929. I think they were born in 1934, 5 years after.
Yeah, response, right?
As a response. And what they're wanting to prevent is another, collapse.
Well, that's their supposed role and duty, right? Is to protect the public from, I guess, mass speculation
and
market
mania.
manipulation, things like, BitConnect, actors like that, where they can, because you can easily convince a lot of people to do a lot of different types of things, right? When you get,
but let's talk about BitConnect for a second. So BitConnect, obvious scam, right? So where was the prevention in all of this?
Well, it's not the actual prevention, I guess. I mean,
maybe it is to discourage the next BitConnect from forming.
Well, there's much more punitive, risk when it comes to forming like a BitConnect-esque type enterprise, right? And getting the market involved and such. But also, I think by establishing these regulatory frameworks, because that's the actual argument, right? Is it good if the SEC actually does, as it looks like they're trying to do, get some sort of foothold into the Web3 space? Is that a good thing overall?
Yeah, but I mean, Howey test exists whether they're enforcing it or not, right? You either pass the Howey test or you fail it. Right, and so they're just enforcing the Howey test, right? I don't see how that's a bad thing.
Well, I mean, some people probably do. I don't. It's not it doesn't mix with I guess the Web3 ethos of these are United States jurisdictions, right? United States policies. These are not United States. Projects, entities, ecosystems are globally distributed, right? So
yeah, I mean, if you're a project, then you just don't sell to the Americans, right? Which we've seen, right? The whole IDO was if you're an American, you can't participate, right? And so you kind of sidestep the whole U.S. regulatory body as a result.
So then, what do you think about them claiming, that the United States has complete control over Ethereum?
Well, that's a little silly, but I can see where they're coming from, though. But I think the real discussion should be outside of the U.S., there are projects that are selling tokens that are considered securities to people who are not American. Is that the right way to do it? Is it? Can we trust humanity to be intelligent enough to understand that this is a risky venture? I think that's the ultimate debate here. From my opinion, the SEC does not trust Americans to make that judgment call. And therefore, they're putting these regulatory, guidelines out, right, with the Howey test and everything.
Well, there's a reason why, the equities markets have been so, exclusive for so long, right? They're only meant for people, on the higher end of the economic hierarchy to participate within, right? The whole beauty of the cryptocurrency industry is anybody could be a part of it, right?
Right. So why does there need to be a barrier to entry for this stuff?
Well, why does it need to be a barrier entry for equities?
For equities, yeah. Why?
You don't know why?
I mean, but let's talk about it.
There's been evidence of why. I guess why did the SEC come about in the first place, right? You have to go back in the history books. 1929. There was an era or period where the mass retail public was allowed to participate and speculate, and they created one of the most, extended bullish periods in the stock market's history.
Okay.
Well, maybe these days we've kind of beat them now.
So explain to me how regulation prevents that.
Well, I think it just I think it removes some of the bad actors from the ecosystem a little bit more, right?
Okay.
But without the SEC, there's no punitive actions, I guess. So what you're saying is like,
So
it doesn't matter. Like the SEC already can go after anybody, so who gives a fuck, right?
Well, I think there's probably a better position for the SEC to say like, okay, we have BitConnect out there.
So why do you think like the fact that the SEC's narrative shifting? Why does it matter if you're saying they already have everything they need to?
Yeah, they do.
To police or to moderate whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
so why does it matter if they think things are securities or not?
Well, it does matter because from their perspective, they're violating these securities laws, right? And so they're going after them. But my question is, why does it matter that they're violating securities laws if the people participating in the securities are educated enough to understand that it's a risk?
I think it's just to prevent like a balloon of people who might not be educated enough to take that. You don't remember what happened in this last
hold on.
cycle?
Balloons happen even under regulatory conditions.
They do.
So what are they preventing here? Like bigger balloons? I mean, what's happening?
No, that's a good argument. Yeah, I think there's obviously like a balloon happening now, even with all these regulations in place. And yeah, it's limited to a much more smaller pocket of participants, right? You know, Wall Street, the financial institutions of the world. They figured out a way how to, you know,
I feel like this is one of those conversations where in the scientific community, no one has a clear definition of when life starts, right? And so you can debate it a million different ways. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like the SEC coming in and enforcing this Howey test is just a judgment call on whether people participating in a security are educated enough to understand what they're doing. And I think we're at a point, this isn't 1929. Mm-hmm. They didn't have access to information as prevalent as we do now. People are more educated to know that it's risky. And if they decide to go all in on something, why are you trying to prevent them from doing that?
I think that's up. You're asking like a much more like deeper philosophical questions, like when should governance apply to the livelihoods of man in general? Like,
that's a side of what I'm talking about. It's more about like, does the SEC, are they really preventing anything with what they're doing?
Well, I don't know. That's debatable in itself, but that is the purpose. That is why the SEC came about, right? It's to inject some sense of regulatory standards and moderations to a market that without them clearly got to a point where it was over exuberant to the point like when it collapsed, it had such financial ramifications. It sparked the whole global depression and an inevitable world war. That is a big thing.
Okay.
So
I totally agree. I'm not saying that they're completely useless. What I'm saying is there needs to be a different threshold for anyone to participate in securities who are sufficiently educated enough, and they can support support that education with some evidence.
You're talking about the accredited investor threshold. Yeah. Well, what is that?
Okay,
yeah.
So what is an accredited investor? So I think I have it. Oh, I think you pulled it up, but definition. What is an accredited investor? Are those individuals classified by the SEC as qualified to invest? The SEC classifies these guys as qualified to invest. Okay, that's the first thing. To become an accredited investor, criteria must be met, such as having an average yearly income of over $200,000. Or working in the financial industry. Aren't we working in the financial industry?
I don't think they would agree. Would they? This is not the financial industry, is it?
How is cryptocurrency not the financial industry?
I'm pretty sure like when you go to LinkedIn, like, you know, you put in like cryptocurrency and financial as like a separate thing.
That's ridiculous.
No, I'm not saying I'm not saying I disagree with you, but yeah, of course this tenant is
I mean, come on.
A little bogus, right? But there has to be some what do you think was going through their heads whenever they established these tenets of like what these
Well, it was a clear way to distinguish people who knew what they were doing and people who did not know what they were doing.
Okay, so they have a financial. If you work in the financial industry, that implies you have enough financial savviness, I guess. So you're saying if you're in the crypto space, you also have that same or similar or within the realms of that same financial understanding. How things work.
Yeah. I mean, can every degen person in crypto qualify as like a being in the financial industry? I would say no.
Okay, that's what it sounded like. You're like, we're in the financial industry, aren't we? Like, not really.
Right.
When was the last time you underwrote like a deal in your life? You know, never. You know, when is the last time you actually like, you know, checked out a balance sheet of a company? Not often.
Okay.
Right. These are definitely separate industries, right? So.
Okay.
That's the reason why they might think that tenet is important, right? Because now you know how to evaluate companies, right? Because that is a very important.
So explain to me how making over $200,000 automatically qualifies you then as a DJ. You could sell one Bored Ape and you're an accredited investor.
It's true. You can.
Right? How?
Why? I don't know, dude. We have to speculate now on why this makes sense because I agree with you from the get-go of like, yeah, this is very limiting. It's obviously not fair to, because I don't even think we got to the 1 million net worth part yet.
Right.
Of like, dude, that's like something unachievable to most people. Like you have to work your entire life to accrue like that much worth.
Yeah.
You know, you have to like abide by all of the systems, standards, and models of financial responsibility, right? Contribute to that 401k.
Yeah.
For your whole career. You know, save whatever, 10% of your income forever.
Yeah.
Invest in real estate. If you do all that successfully and like don't get locked up or, you know, don't have a major health event, by the time you're 60 years old, you're going to have $1 million net worth. It's almost guaranteed, right? So but that's not, is that the right thing to do? Like to protect ourselves from, you know, fucking up our own lives financially just by being participants in these markets?
I just feel like there's a better way of doing this. Because with access to information, your population is generally more educated. Now, I guess you could argue that they're less educated just because of the stupidity that happens on the internet of all kinds, in all forms.
Yeah.
Right? So I feel like there has to be, there's a better way of doing this than just saying if you have money, you can participate. Because here it says sellers of unregistered securities are only allowed to sell to accredited investors. So if you have an unregistered security, as some would claim that most of crypto is, right, unregistered securities, you can sell them to accredited investor. Basically, anyone who has an income of $200K or more or working in the financial industry, and there's one more stipulation if you have $1 million net worth.
Mm-hmm.
And then it says to sell accredited investors who are deemed financially sophisticated enough to bear the risk, right? Some people who don't have 200K income or $1 million net worth can still be financially sophisticated enough to bear the risk. They can.
How do you deem?
That's my point, is the deeming, the definition of sophistication is not only, it shouldn't only be about how much money you have.
Yeah. But is that actually part of the process right now?
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
Absolutely not.
Okay. Well, the only thing I can think of like why this is the way it is just to mitigate any downside risk in the event, you know, you're participating in the markets, things happen, you know, black swan events, I don't know, just corrupt companies that lie to, remember, was that one company who like pretended they, you know, you just get like a prick of blood and you can like know, like if you
Theranos.
Like situations like that, you can get really burnt, even in like a regulated market, like, you know, the equities market.
Yeah.
So if you're in there like an average Joe,
but you can
you've got
really,
your whole net worth in there.
But why? But yeah.
Well, if I'm just saying, like you got your whole net worth in there, and you don't have these like escape vehicles of a $200,000 a year salary, right? If you get burnt that bad, there's something that's gonna bail you out and, you know, not put you on the street.
Yeah,
you know
but there has to be something for people who do want to take the risk. Why couldn't they take the risk?
Well, that's in the eyes of this regulatory body, it's like it's not worth it, I guess, or it might be too damaging, right? This is what I'm talking about. This is what governments do. They create these thresholds, right?
No, I agree why they do it, but what I'm advocating for is for those who want to take the risk to be able to take the risk. And not have just a clean cut, like if you don't have money, you can't participate in like, cryptocurrency.
Yeah. Well, again, what you're advocating for is like pre-SEC, current day Wild West, ecosystems
no,
like the cryptocurrency.
I'm talking about a different qualification. There should be another bullet point to this thing.
You mean like a test?
If you are sufficiently sophisticated enough, you should
a test.
You can go, yeah.
Like a certification.
Yeah.
So something you take online.
Spend 40 hours.
Yeah.
Right. Taking a course.
Like learning how to drive a car.
Exactly. Why, dude? Why not? I don't understand. Like, well, what is so difficult about that?
I think, well, if that were the case, then I'm thinking just the risk of having people not having those like escape vehicles potentially. It's either like
but that's the point of taking that course. That is the point of that course, is that if you go too deep in, you lose all your money. Yes. So don't do that. Here's the best practices, and go off and
diversify and like be a nice like responsible investor and all that shit.
That's the whole point of the course, right? That's why we go to school, right? That's the whole thing.
Yeah. I don't know, dude. This is
I mean, I feel like I'm making like good points here. Like, why can't we amend this?
I agree with you. This is why the SEC is like has such a
Gary,
overbearing. Yeah, go ahead,
Gary.
Tell Gary something.
Gensler, do you want to join the podcast and explain to me why we can't make these amendments in a world where we've had 30 years of access to information and we can properly be educated without, being in the financial industry, and have people take risks, like responsibly at least, through proper education?
Yeah. I think obviously this is ideal. You want people to have this type of freedom and the access to improve their lives, because like I said,
I wouldn't even say it's ideal, dude. I think it's like coming to terms with the current environment of the times of education, like having adjustments here to the current environment.
Even if like internet or not, it doesn't matter. Like just the I don't know, like the core issue at hand is just giving people that kind of like independence and like financial freedom in the first place. Like just because people had to go to libraries and stuff in the 20s and 30s, like they also were able to have informed decisions and become participants in those markets of their time, right? Like, so nothing really changes because all of a sudden the internet's here. Like we're somehow like much more, we should be granted more, permissions, because
I would argue even in the 1920s, if you took a test where it proved your financial sophistication, you should be able to participate in unregistered securities.
Yeah, that's my point. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like a thing of like, the last 30 years we have more information than ever, so therefore,
but
give us the opportunity to like, fuck up our own lives if we make a bad decision, right?
Yeah, but I would still
I'm
say...
with you. Yeah, let us fuck up our own lives if we make a bad decision. That's what freedom's all about, right?
Yeah.
But there are downsides to that, right?
Well,
you can't just have absolute like have at it, lads, and like let's see what comes about.
So wait a minute. So you're okay with the education system as it is, costing on average $30,000 to $50,000. Every student's in debt, right, to getting an education, and then you graduate and then have at it, figure it out, right? Most people under debt, like getting underpaid jobs, but that's okay. But you can't buy an unregistered security. I don't understand how we can have one thing like education, like degrees and all that, and then like just release us to the wild, right? To figure shit out.
Yeah, but
we can't buy an unregistered security. Like,
well, what you're advocating for is the removal of the SEC in the first place, right? Something that's that constricting on our ability to invest or have complete autonomy over our own financial decisions, right? That's what you want. That's what you prefer. That's what seems fair. But I'm just saying, from the lens of the SEC, like they have a very like specific purpose, right? Like so they're gonna look at everything from their own lens, like I said.
Yeah.
So they're gonna have to. It's just like the same thing, like the FDA or any other like organization of the government that have a specific purpose, right? Like to regulate some aspect of of our society, like of our industries.
Yeah,
you
I
know?
mean, the food that we buy in our stores should be edible, right? I agree.
Well, yeah, but there has to be like somebody in there to say like what can and cannot like be put on shelves, right? We have to trust them in some sense, right? Or else, fuck it, dude. Just if you made something in your kitchen, dude, throw it up there on the shelf. Like,
Well,
let's consume it.
I'm not advocating for the dissolution of the SEC. What I'm advocating is for the ability for sophisticated
I
people
know.
to.
But this is what I'm saying. Like, so you're not one extreme or the other. You want like some sort of middle ground, which is reasonable, right?
Yeah. Why can't you and I buy an unregistered security? Why not? I mean, we know what we're talking. We know what we're doing, right? We can prove that we know what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is the problem with us buying an unregistered security?
I guess I'm throwing my assumption here because they think because we don't have these safeguards of like an established, cushy net worth or like a really solid income to where if things go bad outside of our own intellectual capacity to predict the future, just because we're like intellectual people and we're plugged into the news doesn't mean we know what the fuck the future is going to do.
But nobody does.
I know, that's the point. Nobody does.
Right.
But some people are in a position where, like, if things go wrong, like a COVID pops out, all of a sudden 50% of your net worth is, or your portfolio is like.
But that assumes that you and I would go 50% in on a shit project.
It does assume that.
But why would you assume that?
Well, you assume that even for the best traders on the market, right? Like, it's still the same assumption. But the only thing they're also assuming on top of that is like if things go wrong, they're going to have an easier time dealing with it than like, somebody in our level of the socioeconomic ladder.
Yeah. Tell that to the guy that jumped off the building for, what is it? Bed Bath and Beyond. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really what they're trying to prevent. Like these types of events in mass where like, too many people are over leveraged into these markets and then like, it could all just be swept away from them. Imagine what that does, because it's happened again historically, which is why these measures were put in the first place, right?
Yeah, but I mean, even under these guidelines, they still happen.
They do, but potentially we don't know what could have happened without them in place. Like, what would the markets have looked like from the early 1930s till now? Like, would it even still exist? Maybe people would have lost complete confidence and it just turned into like a total like tulip mania. Right?
Yeah.
Did the SEC actually inject some sort of like validity to the entire like market economy? Something like that. Like,
yeah, I mean, if people are not paying attention, like let's say people don't know anything about cryptocurrency and they're like, "Ooh, I heard about this Ethereum thing. I'm just gonna, gamble here." It's like, okay, for those situations, I think the SEC should. That's where it's like, okay, you can't gamble here because you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
But for those who are intelligently buying Ethereum or any other unregistered security because it diversifies their portfolio or whatever strategy someone wants to take, they should be able to defend themselves as to, being able to purchase an unregistered security.
Mm-hmm.
But the person who can't defend themselves like that makes sense. But how do you distinguish one from the other? And I feel like there has to be some other bullet point here that allows.
No, I think you're right. So we're not advocating for anything radical at all. All you're doing is just trying to inject. You're looking out for the little man, dude, which is admirable.
Because the point here is like, okay, the SEC is like cracking down on unregistered securities in the context of Americans buying these things, right? It's not an unregistered security for people in like Bolivia. They can buy these XRPs, whatever, unregistered security. No, nobody's like coming down on them.
Mm-hmm.
But what if the people who bought XRP were sophisticated enough to do so, even though they don't have $1 million net worth? Like, why isn't that possible? That's what I'm trying to understand.
Well, the SEC is arguing, I guess, like in the Ripple case, potentially a lot of the people who were investing in XRP were, I guess, potentially misled into believing not misled, but there was definitely some sort of navigation of an idea that these things are like investable vehicles without actually saying such, right? Because if you were a project in the Web3 ecosystem, you're telling people, buy this token because the price is going to go up.
Mm-hmm.
Remember like Richard Hart? He would actually literally tell his community,
Yeah, he would.
like a guarantee. Like, I guarantee you, like, this shit's going to go up.
Yeah.
How he isn't the poster child yet of like
how?
Yeah, Ripple is and he is not. I don't know. This is probably like one of the most confusing things. But anyways, there's potential like someone like that, like a Richard Hart type actor.
Yeah, Pumponomics.
Yeah, who can co-opt and get people to invest in these types of I don't know, what's their definition of common enterprises or whatever.
Yeah.
Where it could really hurt and damage a lot of people's lives. Like, especially in those types of scenarios where he's getting people to like really over leverage themselves. And then there's like a whole marketing campaign for that. And they're going after people with money. Right?
But even as a sophisticated investor, you're not supposed to over leverage yourself. Right?
Yeah,
and so this bullet point here says sellers of unregistered securities are allowed to sell to accredited investors. My only point here is why can't an accredited investor be just a sophisticated investor?
Which is some sort of like a certificate.
Yeah, certificate, yeah. We
Or
earn certificates like on a regular here,
maybe
right?
like a college
Licensed
class.
college.
Yeah. Like like in health class, you had to do like the CPR thing.
Yeah.
You get like a little thing to stick in your wallet.
We got certificates coming out of our ass, but we can't sophisticatedly buy an unregistered security? Come on.
So what do you think happened then? Like, what do you really think is this? Like, why are they excluding us, dude?
Which is the crux of the point of this.
Yeah.
Are they trying to keep everybody down?
Is that what you think?
I mean,
that's the only other option, right?
Well, what are the results here?
So the SEC was put in place to like just create like a for sure like line of a class, because we know like investing is really the best vehicle for improving your own personal wealth.
It's the only vehicle. Everybody says if you're not investing, then you're just your money's just like disappearing right through inflation, right? So you got to invest. But we can't purchase unregistered securities. Like I just don't. This doesn't make any sense.
So okay, let's get into what you think. Because it sounds like you're heading towards. Wait, what is this?
Whoa, we get sports betting is.
Are we getting hacked right now?
I was going to say that sports betting is one of the fastest growing industries right now too.
Yeah.
So what is the difference in sports betting
Dude,
and
exactly
and this?
So
betting?
Can you bet on anything like right? Can you just download an app and start betting, right? Like what was Fansly?
No, I mean those I guess you can, but you can't just gamble willingly anymore. Like there's regulations for that too.
So
yeah, it's the same argument.
Who can qualify to gamble then? Who qualifies to gamble?
I think like there's anybody. Yeah, you can, but you have to find the right avenues to like actually give you the access to gamble.
There's like an app, right? What are those sports betting apps called?
Like you talking about like FanDuel or DraftKings or whatever?
Yeah, DraftKings and FanDuel. There you go.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't used them in a while. I don't think you're actually. Are you actually gambling when you play that stuff? Like you put money down?
I think you are, dude.
I don't know. Like last time I played those.
See, that to me is way more risky. Way like 1,000 times more risky than like buying Ethereum or any of these shit coins.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know what? I totally agree. It is risky. I've had my periods of gambling, degeneracy and stuff like that, and it's attractive and it's
and like most of the time it's designed. The whole thing is designed for you to lose,
and you're gonna get fucked at the end of it, but you do it anyways.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is it's open to anybody. So, but they some states I guess regulate it. It's state dependent, right?
Yeah.
Now we're talking about exclusively. And this is like a United States issue. I think gambling is like not much of a problem in other parts of the world, as far as I know. But keeping the conversation in the United States, I guess, because we're talking about the SEC.
Yeah.
It's a good point. Yeah. You could definitely fuck up your life pretty easily gambling.
Yeah.
If not easier than participating in like, in the investment
Yeah, I mean,
system.
for gambling, like going to like Louisiana or going to Las Vegas to gamble, you just need to be 18 years old.
Yeah.
Like, what is happening, dude?
Yeah. So what is happening, Willis? What do you think?
I don't understand.
Is this some sort of like weird like way to divide us? Do you think potentially like divide?
That-
Because if we've identified that investing is anybody's best shot at like moving up any kind of like economic positioning in life, no matter where you start on that spectrum, right?
Yeah.
If you start at the like in the up or the downside, like if you could at some point get enough capital to like put it in some sort of investable vehicle, that's your best shot.
Yeah.
At increasing your net worth over time, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So then, wow, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Why is it limited only to?
I never understood
If it's
this.
not them, like actually just trying to like prevent people from like, I guess having some sort of out in the event that things go south.
Yeah.
Then it's got to be it's similar to construct potentially, like to keep us,
Dude, and there's like crypto way of doing this. You get the certificate, you get an NFT, and then whenever you go into like these exchanges to buy a cryptocurrency, they go and check your wallet for that NFT, and boom, you just purchase it. Like, this doesn't need to be complicated.
Yeah. Well, it is very complicated right now.
Well,
Extremely.
Because they're making it for some reason. I feel like we're going back to like 1936 rules. Right, I think Howey Test was like 1940 something.
Yeah,
we're going back almost 100 years on like rules that may not make sense now. Like, why can't we just amend this to properly fit the environment?
Well, I don't think the SEC is like it's not like the Constitution, right? It's not something.
Well, that's what it certainly feels like.
Yeah, these aren't like rights that are given to us by birth. You know what I mean? This is like it's just a government entity that has like full like determination of like what it is that can and cannot go down.
See, I would argue if they added this clause, their expenses would go down.
Expenses?
Yeah, expenses like overhead would go down. Now they don't need to like police
oversight so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then what does that do? Like, let's see. I'm trying to find like I have to play devil's advocate here, right?
No, yeah,
I know because I want to agree with you too. Of course, I prefer people to have the right to do whatever the fuck it is they want to do. Right? We are adults, humans. At some point, we have to take responsibility for our own decisions, but there has to be like consequences to the scale that we're not even considering, to where like these things have to be.
I feel like that's an easy assumption to make that has no basis of a foundation.
No,
like just because you're preventing people with under $200,000 salaries, all of a sudden you're preventing a collapse of society. Like I don't think those are two independent situations.
Yeah. And again, like the savviest of financial people, I guess, are who really are moving the needle when it comes to what's going to happen to our economy.
Yeah.
So it could have snowballed to the point where like, even worse than what it could have been like if we just left it open. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like having our whole global economy like ran by what the SEC interprets as what do they call them? Financially sophisticated people, right? The ones that are in charge of everything.
Yeah.
So what we've seen, what's going on with our economic situation, like, are they really as financially sophisticated enough to like, have that much control over the whole system? I guess we're going to find out here pretty soon.
We've seen evidence of, Mark Zuckerberg going to Congress, a bunch of crypto personalities going to Congress and explaining, these technologies. Congress responds to Facebook, how do you make money? Like, what's your business model? They don't even understand that. Mm-hmm. How are they supposed to understand how cryptocurrencies work in like the most sustainable way?
Yeah.
How are they supposed to make a claim that all of a sudden you don't have $1 million net worth and therefore you're not sophisticated enough? Like these things, like it's serving little purpose. It's not serving the original purpose that they set out to accomplish.
Yeah. Well, shit, man. Tell me how you really feel about all this. Yeah. Fucking A, dude. You just really want to start investing in things, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, that's what they tell us. That's what these big, talking heads on TV true. Say.
In order
to make money, you got to invest.
Yeah.
Right? You don't,
But, yeah, apparently not in
unregistered securities if you're American.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess this is I guess it definitely doesn't feel
So and then
good.
let's talk about
to be on
Theranos.
this end of the stick. What Theranos, the drug company?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we had several sophisticated personnel invest in that company, billions of dollars.
Yeah.
And it was fake news, right? She wasn't actually, she didn't actually create that, that technology with one little prick. You could test for like 100 different diseases.
She lied. Yeah.
And so I guess the SEC sees this as like, well, only accredited investors invested, so they're the only ones that got screwed in this situation. So we did our jobs, right? Not the public got screwed. So I can see that, but how many Theranoses are there?
Not to that scale.
There's not that many.
Yeah.
Right. So, like in the grand volume of things, what are you really protecting?
Yeah.
From what are you protecting it from?
You're talking about like a statistical thing now. It's like a very improbable event. So
yeah,
is it really something that needs to be that heavily regulated or like that much oversight over? You know what I mean? Yeah.
It's like because the whole crypto industry is talking about the SEC, and like I feel like if people who have proven sophistication are taking these risks, then they should take those risks.
Yeah, man. Sounds like a good message to put out there, but nonetheless.
So Gary, if you want to come on and talk to us about how the SEC looks at these things, we're open book.
So does the Web3 space have anything to worry about? Like what's going on with the SEC? Like is this anything at all? Like should we just everything operates as usual? Whether or not like Gary Gensler's interpretation of like, what Ethereum is or what Bitcoin is, whether or not these are securities or not. None of that matters.
Let's assume everything is a security. The whole thing, Bitcoin, all the way to the shittiest shit coin, right?
Okay.
All a security.
Yeah.
All that means is that you and I can't buy any of these tokens. Everyone in Brazil and like China, whatever, they're all like purchasing and buying unregistered securities and potentially making a lot of money.
But what do you like? Investing in a company is those are securities, those shares. We still have access to that,
Right. So I guess through
through regulated bodies.
Bodies.
Yes, we're allowed to buy.
Yeah.
Still participate. It's not like we're excluded if things are deemed securities. Just all of a sudden the channels become much more,
Yeah. So what is the difference between? Okay, so basically what you're saying is if you want the regular people like you and I to buy, then every cryptocurrency should go through register their security. Get onto Robinhood, if you will.
Yeah, pretty much. Or like, if for it to become, I guess, us purchasing something that I guess the SEC.
So what does that do, though?
Well,
all it does is it adds more expenses to all those companies that they have to register their security, and now you and I can buy it. Like what is the difference there? Like how is it more regulated going through Robinhood than it is from you and I buying it on Uniswap?
How is it more regulated? I mean, how do you regulate Uniswap?
No, I'm saying if you could regulate Uniswap. So let's say Uniswap has tokens, but it's a security, right? Right. In this scenario.
Wait, what token? The actual protocol native token? Yeah, they do have a token.
Okay, they have it. Right. What I'm saying is they have a token.
Okay.
It's a security.
Yes.
Okay. They have to register themselves as security. Now you and I can buy it on Robinhood.
Okay.
What changed in that transaction?
Well, it's not about...
What changed where you and I can now buy it versus us going to Uniswap and getting uni tokens?
Well, like from our perspective?
Yeah, what changed?
I don't know. I mean, I have no idea what you're advocating here, to be honest. Like, I don't know your angle or anything. Okay. Like, what are you actually trying to find here?
Okay, so
like,
hold on. Hey, look, let me set it up.
Dude, what the fuck? I don't know what you're getting at.
Hold on. People who have
SEC,
who are not accredited
yes.
cannot buy unregistered securities.
Okay.
Yeah. So now companies have to register themselves if every cryptocurrency is an unregistered security.
So by us buying through Uniswap, which is not going to register with the SEC, right?
Yeah, it's basically buying unregistered securities because Uniswap did not register their tokens.
Yes. So
Okay.
what is the punitive action on like somebody like us who's going to buy a token from an unregistered, distributor of securities? What happens in that scenario?
Yeah, but well, I guess what I'm trying to get at is,
Yeah, what the fuck are you trying to get at? I don't know.
what is
No
the
idea.
difference? So I'm trying to get you to state what I'm trying to say. Watch. Okay.
Let's do this exercise.
Uniswap, right? A token that you can purchase on, exchanges, right?
Okay. Yep.
Let's say in this extreme scenario, every cryptocurrency is a security.
Mm-hmm.
So in order for you and I to buy it, those companies like Uniswap and every cryptocurrency out there has to register their securities. Mm-hmm. That's the only way the government will allow us to buy all cryptocurrency, any cryptocurrency.
Mm-hmm.
So my question to you is, once all cryptocurrencies register their security, why, by registering, how is it that you and I can buy a registered security? Like, what difference occurred when a company registers a security where you and I, people who are not sophisticated according to these points here, can now buy a registered security?
Nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Nothing changes.
But I think the misunderstanding here is you've misinterpreted the purpose of an accredited investor. They're not. This has nothing to do with like what the public has access to, like as far as like investment vehicles. This is for like being like a pre-sale investor to a project or something, like being a seed funder to a project, things like this, getting involved in early stage cycles of companies, right? That's what the purpose of being an accredited investor,
right?
Or having access to things like, like I think you have like a trade limitation on certain platforms, like even on Robinhood, right? You can only execute a certain amount of trades a week as a normal person. If you want like, to have like unlimited access to the markets,
you need to show.
Then you got to have some sort of accreditation, stuff like that, right? So
yeah,
I think all this is you've assumed you have to be an accredited investor just to buy any kind of security. That's not the case,
right?
Securities are not completely like taken away from the public, right? But there are like levels of securitization complexity within the securities world that they have, specific parameters who could participate in those higher complexities, right? So that's what's really happening here. The accredited thing, it doesn't matter. Like even if everything gets deemed a security, yes, we're gonna still have access to purchase these things, but all it's gonna do is gonna create proper or some oversight over none over like the actors within the ecosystem who are actually pushing these products on the masses, right? So what does that do? It creates a more efficient market. It creates a more potentially safer market, because now there's somebody present looking after like who is actually going by the proper restrictions, the proper whatever the fucks. The SEC has been around for a long time. They've seen a lot of schemes. They understand how people could be manipulated so easily. Right? So that is what they're attempting to do, and it's not the most efficient of governing bodies, right?
Yeah, and I guess the problem with becoming a registered security is that it's a nightmare for any startup or any company to like.
Oh yeah, of course. You
like
can't just spin up a project anymore. But that's the point. It validates like the whole space. If there's a project now in a regulated industry, now you have a little more confidence. Now institutions can start to come and participate and not be. You're not going to see Bitcoin and Ethereum ecosystems being the multi-trillions until this type of regulation exists.
Yeah.
Because that's what safeguards like mass amounts of liquidity, right? These people, these institutions, they're not moving like small money, dude. They're moving mountains of cash, of capital around, and they need to be sure like they're not going to get giga-fucked by doing so, right? And that's the SEC's there. There's other governing bodies there. But so, I mean, if you go back to your tenants, you want to add another bullet point, like anybody should be able to invest in these, more complex,
more riskier investments. Like you're saying, if a registered security is less risky, where you and I can just download a Robinhood app and just buy any registered security, an unregistered security represents higher risk.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And so I guess ultimately there should be participation at a level where you're not, $1 million net worth because you're qualified as sophisticated.
Yeah, maybe just, I don't know. I mean, this is beyond, like, we really don't need to try and, like, solve this. This is, like, literally what the SEC is here for, is to figure out these levels of how sophisticated can, I guess, the average investor be.
Yeah.
What should qualify, like, and then at what scale should they get access to, these different, I don't know, financial opportunities. I don't know, dude. Like you said, this is definitely like an endless type debate. Like what did you correlate it to?
Where does life start? Where does life begin?
Yeah, that's not a good. I definitely don't want to ever have that conversation on this podcast.
It's pointless. It's pointless. You can't.
Well, I don't know. Nobody said it's pointless.
No.
It's just like one of those.
The debate is pointless. Because you can't. Yeah. There is no consensus on where to start. So
exactly. So how can you achieve consensus on, like, when is one financially sophisticated or not?
I think the same way that society works, you get certificates.
Okay.
Like that's it.
I mean, it's not unreasonable at all, but but the SEC thinks differently, and that's really what it boils down to.
Yeah, but it's just what annoys me is that we always go back to like these like 100-year-old rules. And we need to be able to update them in a way where, like, it adjusts to the environment.
Well, that's the thing, because, like, in the way I understand the way governance works is it's very reactionary in its implementation, not like preventative.
Yeah.
A lot of like where new laws come from is like something happens, some grand event happens, and it damages a lot of pockets of society for whatever reason. And governments respond, and they enact they erect new departments.
Sure.
Like, hey, drugs were going crazy in the United States probably at one point because there was no oversight over such things. It's just like, holy shit, criminal activity up the wazoo. Like, what do we do about this?
Yeah.
Okay, we got to do something. Let's make the drug enforcement agency. Let's fund it. Let's create this whole program to try and combat it or something, right?
Yeah.
This is how governments react and respond and whatever.
Yeah.
So,
but imagine like how simple it would be if the SEC, made an amendment here and added one more dot.
I mean, they might.
If you're sophisticated, you can purchase unregistered securities.
Yeah.
Want to get sophisticated? Click here. Right. Yeah. You take the test, 40 hours, whatever it is, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And then all these, like now these cryptocurrencies, they don't have to register their security, which ends up killing their business because it's too complex, expensive, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And we can continue innovating. And now my tokens that I'm selling to you, which is an unregistered security, is if you have this certificate, you can purchase it.
Yeah. See, this is a great argument too on like why, the whole regulation thing, it hampers innovation for sure.
Yes.
1,000%.
Really, that's what I'm advocating for is the continuation of innovation and testing and because we're never going to figure this out if we have to deal with regulation all the time.
Yeah, you're totally right. It's a good point. Like, and that's the thing. What we're seeing is like the identity or the legacy system applying, I guess, its historical context to like this whole new emerging technology.
And that's ultimately my point.
Well, that is the big point. Like that's the main takeaway from all of this. It's just like, should we embrace that because like of some of the arguments of it validates like the ecosystem from an institutional perspective? Is that what we want?
Yeah.
As a collective industry sector, technology, whatever, do we want like the legacy system to just feel comfortable enough to participate, or do we want to like because the trade-off of that is like all these over-imposing regulatory forces over our heads.
Yeah, I just can't imagine being at this SEC. We're at this round table, and the whole team there is just trying to figure out how to like attack all these companies.
Yeah,
like instead of adjusting, some of these stipulations and saying, okay, all those companies continue doing whatever they're doing. Whatever it is, let's continue them doing it as long as the burden of proof of sophistication is on the public.
Mm-hmm.
If that would greatly reduce all the stuff that they're doing. All they have to do is say, hey guys, did you sell your tokens to people without the certificate? If yes, then you're in violation. Therefore, $20 million. And That's so much easier.
Agreed. So much easier. But
because then anybody can get this certificate. Anybody can.
I know, Will.
Like,
you're fucking crushing me right now, dude. It's really like frustrating, dude. This is the problem, man. Like, of governing and policing and just like moderating.
I feel like there's better ways to do it.
Of course you do, but guess what? So does everybody else. Everybody has an opinion on like.
But I don't think anybody's talking about it like this. They're all talking like XRP is like, oh, we're not a security because if you go back to 1920, you guys said that this was an investment contract and nobody signed anything.
I think that's because that's their like only option or chance to even
for sure
build a case.
I don't know who needs to like pitch this to the SEC, like who, Zuck, Brian Armstrong. I don't know what needs to happen in order to make these amendments, but it seems like it'd be easier.
Well, that was a interesting like rabbit hole into like getting the common man to invest a little bit more.
Oh, I mean, that's really the issue. That's the issue at hand.
Yeah,
it's like common man cannot participate in unregistered securities. So I was like, okay, let's adjust what the common man is in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that's the problem. Like, if these things if cryptocurrencies and like all the assets and that are coming from the Web3 space are regarded as securities, because they're much more than that. Yeah, they might have like securities-esque properties. The word securities is like, that's the thing. Yeah, we can't build like proper ecosystems without having like, value incentives and like all these properties that are very essential to building, sustainable ecosystem models. So we call them ecosystems. In the real world, I'll probably call them like enterprises or businesses or stuff like that. So, but I don't know. It's like it's just a mismatch of ideologies, I guess. I don't know.
For sure.
I don't know if the SEC is ever going to like understand, or the government in general, what needs to happen, how much education needs to be put forth, for us to kind of, I don't know, come to a compromise or a new regulatory entity. I don't know.
Yeah, I just feel like these numbers are so arbitrary that it was like a lazy attempt to separate the sophisticated ones against the unsophisticated ones. It's just lazy to me.
Yeah. Okay, we can agree on that.
Yeah.
It's just arbitrary. Just even like 1 million, like why not 900,000?
Yeah.
Why not, 1,000,002?
Right.
It's probably it was easy at the time, I don't know.
All right. Well, let us know what you think about the SEC, I guess, accredited investor definition and amendments.
Yeah, like what the fuck's going to happen to Web3, like with the SEC, like much more involved, and like, is it going to screw innovation completely? Yeah, or is it going to like actually foster like, the next Apples and Googles, like actual real big, organizations that, SEC is involved in the equities markets, but I mean, I think we've innovated quite well.
Yeah.
In that framework, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we certainly have.
Yeah.
But imagine if we didn't have that resistance.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, what could have happened? But imagine all the people who got cucked. You know what I mean? So
hence education and certificates and all that.
And then hence, like, where does life begin? Basically, yeah, dude. We'll never understand. Like, this is the hard part of governance.
Yeah.
And this is why I'm so interested in it.
And I feel like governance is like so old school, right? It has to be updatable, like science, man. Science makes claims, and then whenever they discover something new, it's like, okay, now we learned. Now the new claim is this, and this is how things work.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, let us know what you think. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at the Blockrunner, at MetaZone.io, and at RoviAI. And until then, see you in the next video.
Peace.